Now we're going to be joined by two gentlemen to discuss the startups that were on display just now. And I would like to invite Dele Akinsade, Director, Development and Platforms, Sub-Saharan Africa at Microsoft, and Nicole Woodard from the Nexus Global Group. A hand, please, as they join me on stage. So as we mentioned, the Demo Sage panels are for us to try and unpack a little of what we've seen and hear some perspective from some voices active in the space and with an interest to the startups. So gentlemen, I'll kick it right off. And Nicole, perhaps if I could start with you. If we look at the startups we just heard from, perhaps we take them in the order that they presented. And start with Gavin and Fraudcracker. I'm curious perhaps your position on their take to the market and any feedback you'd have for them.
Okay, great. Thank you again, and it's always wonderful to be here in Kenya. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Fraudcracker. I thought, when I looked at their presentation, it was excellent execution in their presentation. It was very clear, nice, good visual cues. The little briefcase of money always brings attention, but I thought it was good the way, he took it out and showed, what you could save in terms of fraud prevention. I looked at it and I said, well, how does this monetize? So I wasn't really clear in terms of who the customers actually would be and how they would get paid. But I thought that overall the presentation and the flow was excellent, and I'll probably step away and talk to them about that monetization a little bit later. And then the last thing was just the overall, and I think I touched on it slightly, was the customers and the markets.
Perhaps we can hear from Dele on Fraudcracker.
Glad to be here. Fraudcracker, I think is the one I've been impressed with so far, out of all the startups that presented. Obviously, I was interested in that briefcase of money. Was trying to see if it was actually real $500,000 that was in there. But I actually liked the way he presented the problem that he was trying to address. I think he went through that, and I think a lot of us can relate to that. And I also like the other applications of the solution. I saw some things around bullying. I saw some things around other areas that this could be applied. And I think that kind of resonated with me along that. Just like Nicole said, around the monetization aspect of it, I think I needed some more clarity. He probably will have some time to talk to us outside in his booth to explain that model. But it was overall a very good solution and good presentation by Gavin.
And if we move towards Steven's presentation, perhaps you can kick back to you, Nicole, and sound off on your thoughts.
Yeah, great. I think on the second one, Extend event, I thought it was an interesting concept. I really looked at it closely, really trying to understand that market and what he was trying to achieve with connecting the products with the actual event promoters and the customers that were there. So I thought it was interesting. A couple of the notes that I made were, that the extension of the products was kind of clever. I'm not really sure how he's going to make that connection with the forms that he filled in and the other tools that he was using to make it, but I thought it was interesting. Now, in terms of how he defined his marketplace, in terms of the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, I thought that was interesting too, but in his presentation, it wasn't clear how that extension was going to be made, or in those different segmented markets, how that was going to be achieved. So I would need a lot more information really to understand how his application and his product work. And so once again, I think in the demo pit, I'll take time to just go by and have a conversation and see if I understand a little bit clearer.
Yeah, so I think similar feedback from me as well. There's still a lot more information that I need to get from the gentleman as to fully understand extendevent.com. Just the same notes. I'm looking at the notes that Nicole took. It's basically the same notes that I took as well around his focus markets, the BRICS countries. Obviously, being based out of South Africa, a lot of the data that he shared were based on his BCX engagement with South Africa. But I would like to get some more information as to how he plans to go into Brazil, Russia, and the other BRIC countries out there.
And last but certainly not least, with the Center for Affordable Housing Finance in Africa. Curious your respective thoughts. Michael, perhaps we start with you.
Great. This one, CityMark, I thought was really interesting, especially if you're looking for a house in that particular that particular area or geography. Now, I looked at it and understanding the local market in South Africa, and actually I've lived in South Africa before, so I could get kind of a view and an understanding of what they were presenting. But having that tool, I think, would be invaluable. I like the web dashboard and the interface. I thought that I wasn't really clear about the age of the market data. And once you leave South Africa, I was very, very curious about if that market data would be there in other countries, say for instance like Nairobi, where I've also lived in Nairobi too. So I know that as a consumer and as a user, I would use this information definitely if I was looking for affordable housing. Now, they define three of their products. They define the subscription, the advisory, and the network piece. And the revenues and the growth plan were clearly laid out in terms of the next countries that they wanted to go to. But I think that would also tie back to, is that data available for them to go into those markets? That was my comments.
Yeah, this was very interesting solution. It's something that I've had discussions about with people within Microsoft as to data and being able to use that data for the public. A lot of countries in Africa don't have that rich set of data, but much more developed countries like maybe South Africa will have that. And there's a lot of applications that can be applied here. There's other data that they probably could have added to it, such as crime statistics, education statistics as well, to add to it that can give you a comprehensive look as to the neighborhood, because when it goes to value of properties, those are things that matters as well. The impact is very clear of using this, and I like the way the team presented the various stakeholders that can benefit from this, from banks that are looking to give loans to governments and also the private developers that are out there. Their monetization of the solution, I think, was clear to me. But I have a couple of questions as to how this can be extended outside of South Africa, because I'm just not sure that they will have access to the rich data sets that they have in South Africa. If there's some other ways that this could be thought of in other countries that could make sense to developers and investors looking to develop projects in those in other African countries. But overall, I was very impressed with the presentation. It's one of the startups that I'll go visit to kind of get more information from them, because it's something I know that data can actually be made available to other developers out there for other products or projects that they could be working on.
All right. Any closing comments, Nigel?
That's it.
All right. A round of applause, please, for our panel.